since the basket case is still broke down, and parts will be here very soon to get it back up and running, I can get back to work on that fence. But I've been focusing a little bit more on my little container garden here. Been learning a lot about tomatoes, a lot of stuff I didn't know. So this week's video, all about my little garden. Alright, so just got back. I've been out of town. Went up to see my sister, and she gave me this cool soil pH tester. So you got to put it in the ground for 1 minute before you take the reading. So I put it in right before I started the video. But let's look at tomatoes real quick. So this one again in potting soil. See, it's looking awesome. These ones are looking great. They were just little bitty guys. These are the youngest ones that I have. And then these ones in our homemade potting soil. They look okay, but not that good. Although this one, which is actually one of the worst looking ones, it's got a tomato on it. Oh, look at that, too. Yeah. So I only had one when I left, and so it's already starting to get 2 tomatoes on there. So haven't checked. Doesn't look like anybody else is making tomatoes. Now, if the soil is too hot in here, they'll get really green and they'll look really good. That's what I suspect the manure level in here is. There's too much manure, so I don't know how that's going to affect the pH, but it'll be interesting to see. I wanted to test real quick. But they'll be big green bushy plants, but they won't produce any tomatoes. So maybe we got it better on these two. You can see they're starting to get buds on them. This one as well. Oh, look, this one's got a tomato. So these two are actually already starting to produce fruit. This guy, which the plant looks really good. Oh, I'm wrong. It's got a couple. There's one there and a littler one right there. So it's got tomatoes on it as well. Okay. And then again, they're younger. So this does come with a little list here. This tester. It says tomatoes. Where'd they go? Tomatoes, 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 tomatoes. I just looked at it right there. Tomato, 5.5 to 7.5. And we're at, okay, we're at 2 minutes now. So 5.7. So that one is good. So I'll have to clean that real quick. It comes with all kinds of instructions. And this is a rapid test digital soil pH meter. So I don't know how accurate it is, but my sister grows some kind of fancy house plants, and I guess she used this to get her pH right in her soil. So it ought to be decent at least. So let me clean this real quick, and then we'll do some of these other ones and see where we're at. Alright, so this one's going to be kind of hard to see, but what you do is you push it down here into the soil. You're supposed to clear some of it off, but I can't. It's hard to do that in there. And then you twist it a few times. And then you wait. So wait a minute. It's reading right on 7. Just went down 6.7, 6.5. Starting to drop. So I'm going to wait another minute, and then we'll check that reading and see what, this will be our store-bought potting soil. We'll see what the pH of that is. Okay, so 1 minute later, I'll show you that. So that's 6.5 on that one. So, and that is our, oh, went back already. That's our store-bought potting soil. So that's a lot closer to the middle of where, the pH range that tomatoes are happier in. That one is just barely, it's almost too basic. So, or acidic, I'm sorry. So it's too acidic, but not quite. It's still within the range that it recommends, but just barely. That one's right in the middle of the range. So, all right, let's check the rest of them. All right, so that's one. That one tested 5.7. This one was 5. I had a 4.9, 5.7, a 5, and 4.9. So these are all low almost, with a couple of them just barely being in range. And then the last one I'm testing here, this was my older potting soil that I had made last year. That's at 5.3. So that one's also low for my Sun Golds there. So that's pretty interesting. I also tested just my ground here, which this is different. This isn't where I got the topsoil from, but it'll be pretty close. I think I'm gonna go test where I actually got it from, but the pile that I got it from is gone. But it was at 6.7, so it's basically just neutral. And then I did my best to test a little pile of a little cow turd over there, and it was around 5. So that's kind of hard to test because I don't have like a, it's different. But anyway, around a 5. So I think that confirms that we put too much manure in there. Seems to anyway. And so the pH of all of these is a little bit lower than it should be as compared to this one, which is at 6.5, whereas again tomatoes like 5.5 to 7.5 according to the little paper, and the peppers says they like a 5.5 to 7. So, and they're in the same potting soil, this 6.5. So they ought to be loving it. So anyway, pretty interesting video though, or interesting information to be able to judge that. So in the future, maybe we can try some different fertilizers to adjust the pH in these, and yeah, we can see, I don't know, we'll see what we can do. So it'll be fun to experiment, and I'll have that tester for at least a little while. So they'll be, my sister who I borrowed that from will be down here next week, so I don't know if she's going to want that back right then or if she can do without it for a while. But if she can, I'll keep it, and we'll just do experiments on these tomato plants here this summer and try different fertilizers and see what affects the pH, a week or two later. So that'll be pretty fun. All right, well, one thing I forgot to mention is that manure is a perfectly good fertilizer, right? But you can't add it when it still looks like manure. And so this is actually some of what we had added in, and this was some of the stuff that we discarded and didn't add. But it had been composting for about half a season, and really you need about 2 years on fresh manure. As it composts and breaks down like with straw or with other just biomass and plant material, the pH will neutralize, but it'll still retain a lot of the nutrients that are in the from the broken down, composted grass. Because cow manure, it's essentially just fermented grass, right? I mean, you can even, if we look at this, it's been rained on, you can even see all the fibers and stuff. It's just grass that didn't fully, or not necessarily grass, but just plant matter that didn't fully get digested, and it's just kind of been fermented in their bellies, and it's too acidic when it comes right out of the cow. So you got to pile it up and leave it for a couple of years, turn it over a few times. And so that's the problem here. It's not that we added too much manure, it's that the manure we added was not adequately composted, and that's why it's too acidic, and the tomatoes are not liking it. So now other plants like blueberries, for instance, like acidic soil, so they would actually probably really like this potting soil. And I don't know how well that would work, but that would be an interesting way to put acidity in the soil if you had a plant that needed that. It's just to put a fresher manure in there, it seems like. Now, don't quote me on that. This is one very small experiment. I have an N of, a few here, and my testing on the manure is not super accurate, I don't think. So I don't know if that's exactly what's going on here. That's just what it appears to me is going on. So don't go out and plant all your gardens on my advice. Just maybe use that as a point to start researching. So, which is all I'm going to use that for, but I'm going to share it with you so that you have that information as well. Alrighty, so a neighbor came over and was helping me out with the tomatoes here, and so I've never done this. I've always just used cages, like my parents' garden. Used to help them with it, but we always just used tomato cages. This is a little bit different though, so this is just bale and twine, and I've set T-posts, right? And so you go around the back side of them and then back around this way. I guess it doesn't really matter which way you start, but you just tie the line off to your T-posts, one on either side of them, and then that makes kind of this twine itself is almost kind of a basket that goes around the plant. So then as they grow, you just keep adding more lines and up taller and higher, and more low if you need them, and just keep adding wraps of bale and twine around there. So pretty cool. I like it. It looks good. So that'll keep them from getting broken off by the wind and blown over and being all droopy like tomatoes do. So very cool. I like that. She also just mentioned, I didn't ever know this, but she said when you have blooms, if you kind of flip them a little bit, it'll cause them to pollinate, helps them pollinate better. So just kind of give them a little flip. I had never heard that either. So they're self-pollinating. They don't need bugs, I don't think, or anything like that. But they got to have some sort of wind or something to rustle them around. And so if you see the blooms, just give them a little flip, and then that will help them pollinate. And I'm also learning today, actually the other day, about suckers. So you can see there's this little branch right here. It's got this little one that's growing out of there. This one will not produce fruit. So you can just pinch them off, and it keeps the plant from being, it gets everything out of your way, right? It's not quite so crowded, so it's easier to pick them. And then they're not dedicating energy and resources. Like, see this little guy here? They're not dedicating any of the plant's energy and resources to making them suckers live when they're not actually going to ever bear fruit. Now, like this one, this one's fairly big, but I'm going to break it off of there anyway. Now this one, it's up tall enough on the plant. She said on the ones like these, just leave them. And a lot of times that will become a fruiting body. And so it's not necessarily a true sucker. So anyway, pretty cool. This one can go. So tomatoes, all kinds of fun stuff learning about tomatoes. They're all looking pretty good, really good actually. And then now this one's still looking the best. It's the biggest, and it was easier to see when they were all kind of flopped over. But can you see how much darker this one is compared to this one? Here's two leaves right next to each other. Right there, see the difference? So this being potting soil, this doesn't have all the manure and stuff that we put in our homemade mix, and so these ones need fertilized. So I've got a kind of a tea that I'm going to pour in there, and it's a concentrated mixture. So I'll add 1 cup per gallon. And what I've got is, it's right over there, that 5-gallon bucket. Inside of there, I'm not going to open it right now because I don't have my jug, and it is nasty. But what that is it's a 5-inch layer of hay within about 2 or 3 inches of fish parts. So you just layer them there in the bucket. You go fishing or something, you take all the guts and heads and crap like that, and you just put them in there with the hay, and then more hay, and then more fish, and then more hay, and more fish, and then you fill it all up with water, seal it up in a bucket, and just let it sit out in the sun for a few months. And that turns into just like an organic, natural, fish-based tomato fertilizer. And apparently they just love it. So here in a little bit, well, it'll be a day or two yet, but I'm gonna test the pH in all these again. We'll see if we've changed that with our baking soda and wood ash. So, and then we'll, like I said, I left this one over here as control, and it currently is, you can see that one versus all these other ones. It's currently the worst looking one, and the pH is low. The pH is too acidic in that soil, so that makes sense. But you know what? It is actually fruiting. So it's got tomatoes on it already. And some of these other ones that are a little bit better, bushier looking plants don't have any tomatoes on them yet. So, and this one's got blooms, starting to have some more. No tomatoes growing on these ones yet over here. So, even though they look better, that one is actually still performing a little bit better. Technically, it's got more fruit on it, right? Higher yield. So, all right. Anyway, be back. Maybe I think tomorrow. I'll recheck that pH, and I think that'll be about a week. So, yeah. Anyway, see you then. All right, retesting the pH. This happens to be the one that we had added the wood ash to, and it was at 4.9 last time, a week ago. And it's at 5.6 now. It's kind of hard to see, I think. So that seems to have helped. So with 1 gallon of that wood ash mixture with 1 cup wood ash and 1 gallon of water, seems to have brought it up about a half a point on a pH scale. This one, same type of thing. It was at 5.1. It's also at 5.6. And this one, and that one, we'd put the baking soda in. Half a gallon of baking soda mixed at a teaspoon per gallon. And did that on both of these. Well, that one didn't change much. I tested it a couple times, but it didn't change very much. So this one, though, it did come up about a half a point. And this one as well. So seems pretty cool.
I think that helped. Probably need to do it again on all 3 of these and try to get them up a little bit higher. And then I did change my testing procedure. I dug a little hole down because I'd forgotten that I'd top dress these with just regular store-bought topsoil. So I wanted the reading of my stuff that's down in there that we had made with all the manure in it. So just dug down until I started finding our vermiculite and stuff, and then retested all of them and wrote them all down. So well, there you go. If your pH on your potato soil is too low, you can use, looks like baking soda and or wood ash just mixed up with water, and it will improve the pH. So all right, now I mentioned the other day I've got this one that needs some food, so I'm gonna mix that up real quick. I got a bucket, and we'll mix up some of that smelly fish juice and pour it on there for it. So this is a bucket that has my fish juice in it. It's kind of funny, yesterday I didn't put 2 and 2 together until I opened it just now to mix it. But my neighbors over here helping me with the string, showing me how to do that. And both of them that were over here at one point said, I think I smell something dead. And then kind of went away. They're like, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure it was probably that bucket that they were smelling, because it is rank. It smells vile. But tomatoes really like it though. So just about a cup of that. That's a 2-gallon bucket, about half full, and we'll just pour it down there in the pot with it, and it should green back up pretty quick. So all right, I think it's going to take 2 hands so I don't spill it on myself, so I'm going to do that real quick. All right, so on these knots here, where this is tied off to each one of these posts, this is a super simple knot. I'm going to try and show you kind of with one hand here, but you just make a loop and then another one, and you put that over whatever you're wanting to tie off to, and then you can kind of ratchet that tight like that, and see it'll hold. Now, I didn't do a very good job of it, but now that'll hold tension on this part back here, and you just move on to the next one, and then just super simple, you just make that loop, stick it over the next pole, and you can keep going. And I mean, that took us a total of probably 10 minutes to do both of those, and I mean, if even that long, it's super simple, super easy to do, and goes really quick. So it's a common knot used in a lot of different industries. Actually, it's a similar knot that you might use for laying out concrete, like forms and stuff. You put your string lines out with your jet stakes and stuff. You just use that same knot to tie off to those nails to pull your string tight, your twine. So anyway, though, that's how you do that. I didn't do a very good job showing you, I don't think, but that's how it works. So just a couple simple loops, and it allows you to pull everything tight, just like that. So alrighty, the last trick I've learned is you can use these feed bags. There's paper feed bags, so they'll break down eventually and just rot away, but no big deal. And you can put it right around in between the rows if you have a normal garden. In this case, this would actually work out pretty good if I had another row of containers. Then you just set the containers on the bags. So in this case, I'll have to come through and shovel a little bit of like dirt or something, or find some rocks to make sure that these don't blow away. And I need to get some more for the other side here. But these are just feed sacks. I generate a whole bunch of these during the winter, feeding cows, and put it down. That'll keep the weeds from growing up quite right there next to the plants. And like I said, if you had multiple lanes, then you can use those bags to keep your lanes in between your whatever you got growing cleared. So we've got 2 different neighbors that do that. Each one does a little bit different, but if you have just a regular garden that you're going to put mulch on, then you put those bags down first, and then you mulch over the top of the bags, and then that just keeps whatever weed and stuff from being able to come up through your mulch. So it seems to work pretty good. Alrighty, well, like I say, I'll get some more bags to finish this side out. I just got a big handful of them. I got a huge pile of them, like I say. So alrighty, hey, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Oh, by the way, peppers doing great. This guy even starting to get some blooms. That's my big jalapeno. The little ones, there's the ghost pepper. It's doing the least well out of all of them. I may need to feed them some fish juice as well. So, all right, fearless time. See you guys next time.